to enter the city. So also the pilgrims going from one town to the other, they would go to the church. The same thing is the church. That's the idea of this porch. When you come too late, you can spend time or even night covered, shelter from the rain. So that's the typology you will see throughout the Istria. Some of you maybe will be seeing this for the first time. Probably for the Croatian students, this is something that you already experienced. But you will see these different typologies, happening throughout the city. So one of the things is, there's a church. Also, we are going on this side. You entered the Grožnjan today on, this big entrance. This wasn't the case in the old days. It's an old entrance. We are doing the reverse. I'll try to make the short as possible the story about history, urbanism and stuff like that. But some key points I will try to emphasize. So this is the entrance to the city, and for some of you, you'll probably notice that Eastern cities are quite small, but these are cities or towns, they're not villages. And what's the difference? You will notice inside there's a number of public spaces and public buildings. And this idea of what is common and what belongs to everyone living in the city, that's the difference. That's the, let's say, conscious of living together inside the city. On the right, when you enter, you will find another typology. That's the town loggia. There's the covered space, sheltered space, where everything happens that is important. There's a place for discussion, there's a place for court, everything that in a way is connected for everyone living inside the city. Another thing is, a town square, a church, a town hall, stuff like that. But this covered town lodge is something quite specific for this job, because you will find it in a big city, in a small city. There's a tiny version of it. Sometimes you will find it in the middle of nowhere. There's just a church, 2 houses, and a small lodge. But the typology remains. So maybe we can go now around the city instead inside, because most of the next 7 days you will be inside the city. Go where there are terraces, and you can try. What's the worst thing that can happen? Of the, let's say, hilltop medieval town is something quite specific to Istria, and it's one of the densest network of cities on top of the hills in Europe. And now the short questionnaire. What are those two that you can see? And you will be probably seeing it every morning eating breakfast. And the other one? Give it a couple of days. I'm serious. Every day. And the code name of the house where the restaurant is Motovun. So when someone says we'll meet at Motovun, that means that, and that's the reason why. Okay, what you need to have in a medieval town when you're inside the city walls, you are on top of the hill because of the enemies, because of the danger and everything. You always have to have a water supply, and at the same time, you have to have it somewhere inside the hill, so you can reach it from inside the city. But also, it is very good to have it because every hilltop town is town on just inside the walls, but the town is also happening outside the city walls. It's not just the buildings, because you have to feed all the people inside. So everything outside becomes, in a way, agriculture, fields, terraces, and everything that you need just to grow food. And also, you need the water for that. So this is the point where you also enter the city from the back. You know, this is just, you will see it's quite a different slope when you're going to work in the field. And you will see also nowadays they are still using it. That's actually very nice, and still growing food. So you always see it, you know, just as a form of buildings, but also there's a huge part of land that isn't just that, just architecture. Also, there's a nice story about, you know, the whole hill where Grožnjan is located. That is actually empty shell filled with water and stuff like that. But actually, no one checked it out. There's also a story when you enter here, you will, you know, end somewhere on the other side of the city. But you can try. Let me know what happened.
Це приватно, тут ж відгороджено вже. Ні. Це треба дуже...
Dostanemo ovdje. Tako da vam sunce ide već. Okay, so we made a short walk around Grožnjan, and now we are back inside. And we are actually here by this statue of this guy, you will see. What is specific about Grožnjan? You will probably see or hear or read somewhere that is actually a town of artists. And that is not something that is old, traditional, or happening throughout centuries. That is actually something that happened it's a quite new thing. It happened after the Second World War, because during the Second World War and the war that was happening here, it had a lot to do with Italian population and with the war happening. I won't get into details, but the end result was after the war, after the Second World War, Istria was definitely part of Yugoslavia. That meant that a lot of Italian population that was living here before fled. Some of them they had reason to leave. For some of them they were just afraid. But the big part of the population just fled the cities from Istria, especially north. And a bunch of these towns were left almost empty. Like half of the city was completely empty, and after 20 years after that, it was in ruins. You know, the half of the Grožnjan was empty, in ruins, falling apart, and nothing was happening. And then started initiatives, especially in the 60s, that came from the artists who came here and start using, with the approval of the state, start using this empty space. and they started using it for galleries, for ateliers, studios, and stuff like that.
Chris, do you mind just I meet you at the dinner?
Yeah, okay. And 10 years after that, you had a town full of artists, all kind of painters, sculptors, ceramics, all kind of that. And then people from the, it was at the time, you know, youth organization for music. So it was Muzička omladina Yugoslavia, or nowadays it's Croatian Musical Association. They came here, they saw the potential, they said this is something very interesting, maybe we can be a part of it. And then they moved in. And then it took the whole story on the another level, because it meant much more art, much more artists, summer festivals. So for the next 40 years, Grožnjan really became, you know, a town of all kind of arts and culture. So that is the actual story, you know, behind this statue and the story of Grožnjan. So, you know, sometimes you have an old church or you have some lodge that is 500 years old, but what's the most important thing that defined the city happened just 40 years ago. And actually this story, this architecture school, is also part of it, because as different kind of musicians, you know, just gathered, also architects at 1989 joined the whole summer school seminars and stuff like that. And we are here 36 years later doing the same thing. So that's some outline about Grožnjan. And also I mentioned, you know, we have a double-coded names. That's the reason, because when artists came, they did a whole bunch of things, not really thinking about history, importance, just doing stuff. And of course, that's the names of the houses today are the names that they gave them. So we have this old castle, you know, but our name for the studio, which is on the almost in the basement, is actually disco, because they organized movies, projections, disco, and stuff like that. You will see. And every house that was part of this, you know, program had that kind of story. So you will realize that throughout the days you will have questions, and we'll probably try to answer it. Some of them will make sense, the others won't, but that's all part of the story. Okay, maybe we can now move to dinner.